Yeah. I call this meeting to order. Welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the Belleville City Council. It's Tuesday, April 24th at 6 o'clock. We can have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Buckley. Here. Councilmember Linsell. Here. Councilmember Allian. Vice Mayor Clark. Mayor Elam.
Here. Let the record show that Vice Mayor Clark and Councilmember Allian, they're not here this evening. They're excused. They're on trips with their family. Beautiful weather outside, so we let them go for this one. They normally don't miss meetings. Next, we have a pledge of allegiance. I would ask Councilmember Buckley to do the honor of giving us the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have an invitation from Reverend Bob Helton of our very own Church of the Oaks.
Almighty God, you love this community, we know that. So please show your love by granting mercy and wisdom to everybody in this room. Thank you for a city where the police department means it when they say they protect and serve, where council members aren't too proud to deliver the city's magazine from door to door. And we thank you for your presence here. Amen.
Thanks, Reverend.
By the way, on May 3rd, Thursday, is the National Day of Prayer. So if you're so inclined, you can join several of us. We'll be at the flagpole out here in front of City Hall at noon on that day. Thank you.
Again, thank you, Robert. Much appreciated. Okay, we have presentations this evening. First presentation is Monterey County Election Department voting changes. We have Ms. Gina Martinez, Assistant Registrar of Voters, and Greta Orvalo, Outreach Program Managers. Thank you for taking time in your evening, with your families, to come here and give us the updates on these voting changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members, and members of the community of Del Rio. We're here representing Monterey County elections, as the Mayor said. I'm Greta Orvalo, the Outreach Program Managers, and Gina Martinez, Assistant Registrar of Voters. And today we're here to give a special announcement for the community of Del Rio. And we will welcome any questions and comments via email to respect today's meeting. So we're going to follow up with a presentation here. These are the different changes that have happened, and our voters in Monterey County are going to see a difference. So we have a ballot sign, vote by mail outgoing envelope, vote by mail return envelope, school and special districts, conditional voter registration, and election office location. So let's start with the first change, which was the new ballot design. Voters, this is the first thing that they're going to see different. They're going to see a new ballot design. What has changed is that before they used to mark it by connecting the arrow, now it's going to be filling in the oval. So if we zoom into the instructions portion, here the voters are going to see that they have to fill in the oval with blue or black ink pen. We have added a blue highlighted portion underneath each of the contests. That is for helping the voters identify how many candidates they can choose on each election. Vote by mail outgoing envelope. For those of you that are vote by mail voters in the past, you have remembered that it used to be a white envelope that you will receive. Well, now has also changed to help and simplify the system for the voters. We have added a blue stripe to the left side of the envelope. And on the back, you're going to see 3 simple steps to mark the vote, and also contact information for our Monterey County Elections Office. For the vote by mail return envelope, this is one of my favorite ones because it's the one that's showing the before and after. So if you remember the previous vote by mail envelope, you had to do a triple folding. Well, now that has changed. It's only going to be one single folding. The voters still have to sign inside the box, specify the date, and confirm that the voter's name and the voter residential address, showing right there, are correct as it was printed on the envelope.
So we've also had a change, a lot of changes that we're seeing now are based on legislation, and SB 415 is one of those pieces of legislation that allows schools and special districts that have odd-year elections to consolidate with even-year elections if the voter turnout was significantly lower than the even-year elections. 33 of our school districts and 25 of our special districts are now consolidating with November's election this year. So how does this impact the voter? Well, we're possibly going to see multiple ballot cards with more contests. We're advising our poll place voters to prepare in advance, to read the materials and really go into the voting booth knowing who you're going to vote for. You can use your sample ballot and the voter guide as a template. Conditional voter registration is another change. So every election, there's a closed registration period 15 days before the election. This June, that closes May 21st. If you're registered by the state, you can vote a regular ballot. And if you miss that date, then you were done until the next election. Now, with conditional voter registration, those who are eligible can still register and vote up to and including election day. This is a period during the 2 weeks before the election, May 22nd through June 5th. The voter must vote a provisional ballot so that we can do additional research in our office, and they'll have to complete this process at the elections office. And we've moved. We're reminding our voters that we're in a beautiful new location, 1441 Schilling Place, North Building in Salinas. You can see that we're right off of Highway 101 and just minutes away from 68. So we're no longer in that South Main Street location. Important dates for elections. Our primary election is June 5th. The last day to register for the primary election is May 21st. Early voting begins May 7th in our office. General election is November 6th. The last day to register is October 22nd, and early voting begins October 8th. And we're going to remind folks that if you haven't yet registered, or if you have information that's changed, you can register online at registertovote.ca.gov.
And with that, we want to thank everyone again. Please make sure that you share this information with any other voters that you know and your community members. Our election again is June 5, and we hope to see all of you voting at the polls or early voting by then. Thank you.
Any questions by council members? Out to the public, any questions by members of the public? Seeing none, that was an outstanding presentation, no questions. Let's have a hand for our guests. Young lady, there's the brakes behind her.
There she is. Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have staff reports, start off with the city manager's report. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and council, to commemorate Earth Day, Mr. Maury, the owner of our landscaping business, graciously donated and planted 5 oak trees in the Rosita Triangle adjacent to Rosita and Angeles by our church. Public Works will water them using a drip irrigation system that will be provided off of Mr. Maury's meter, so he's also paying for the water to get those oak trees taken hold, which is very gracious. A group of our residents volunteered their time over the weekend to remove some of the rubbish from what was a homeless camp on our 17-acre parcel. Public Works transported the bags from the roadside to the dumpster. It was a wonderful example of residents working with the city to beautify the city, particularly on Earth Day. The Ragsdale Cronins adopted the public space at the intersection of Carlton and Highland. And I want to thank you very much for the wonderful plants that they've taken the time to plant there and the wood chips that they've put down as well to help not only beautify the area but also help with stormwater runoff. Staff met with the airport district to discuss their environmental impact report for their master plan. The document is under development and expected to be released to the public in August. Wednesday evening, Councilmember Allian, Commander Berkman, and myself attended the annual homeowners meeting of the Oaks, along with the executive director from the airport, Michael LaPierre, and his chief planner. We spoke with residents about not only about the crime issues in the city and what the police department's doing in that regard, also some of the major initiatives underway in the city to include the potential development of the 17-acre parcel that's adjacent to the Oaks, which is a great concern to those residents. And then the airport gave them an advanced preview of the environmental impact report and answered questions about that. And it was very welcomed by the residents. It was good Q&A. I'll return to their May meeting, their board, to receive feedback once they've had time to think through the environmental impact report and any thoughts they might have. Staff just prepared and published the spring edition of the Acorn, and the Pony Express, I understand, is delivering it to homes tonight and tomorrow. Thanks to all that volunteered to distribute it. Kim Carvalho and Karen Manani were recognized Friday evening after being nominated by our police chief, Jeff Boyne, as Administrative Assistants of the Year. This was done at an annual dinner of the Monterey County Police Officers Association. And it was a really fun evening to see Chief Boyne recognize two world-class employees of our city and keys to making our police department function. Public Works conducted preparatory work on our roads by removing tree roots and portions of the pavement where roots have caused the roads to buckle in advance of our slurry seal project that will take place in June. Staff have placed a temporary narrowing of the road on Carlton on Monday, April 2nd, in coordination with the City of Seaside, MST, Monterey Peninsula Unified School District, and various public safety agencies. Our traffic engineer successfully counted traffic at 10 intersections prior to the measure and during the measure. And I expect to see preliminary analysis in the coming weeks, and we'll bring those analyses to council at the May 22nd meeting with the staff recommendation, and we'll continue to coordinate closely with the City of Seaside. There were 2 bus tours coordinated by Transportation Agency of Monterey County for the 218 corridor study. TAMC staff joined Kimley Bourne Traffic Engineering Consultants, Caltrans, city staff, and residents. Councilmember Lintel was with us on that tour. It was a great opportunity to really look at the issues along 218, whether it's roads turning off and onto 218 and the safety there, the speed limit on 218, pedestrian and cyclist safety along the corridor, and the traffic engineers took good notes, and we'll be bringing back some ideas about how we might mitigate those concerns, and hopefully those ideas will then compete for grant funding to be implemented. Our police department arrested an individual wanted for 2 crimes in the city of Delray Oaks in close collaboration with neighboring departments in the city of Seaside. While running his police department, Chief Boyne is also developing a timeline for consolidation of our department with the airport department. And last week, we posted a recruitment for a police officer for a vacancy we now have in the police department. We look forward to having a couple of good candidates for that position. Monday, April 30th, the Monterey County Business Council is hosting an infrastructure summit at the Embassy Suites Hotel right down the street from 7:30 to 5 p.m. The city of Delray Oaks is a sponsor, and we have 10 seats available. Many of our council members are going and staff. It should be a good day. Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you. Excellent report. Councilmember Lintel.
Yes, I attended the Seaside Sanitation Board meeting, and there was a closed session regarding the conference with real property negotiators. The property under question includes the wastewater collection system facility owned by Marina Coast Water District and the portions of Fort Ord that are within the city of Seaside. And we adopted a resolution rejecting previous bids for the lift station upgrades for the military, Rosita, and Del Monte lift stations due to a redesign, and so we authorized the new redesigns that will be out for bid again. Adopted a resolution amending the professional services agreement with E2 Consulting Engineers for an amount not to exceed $41,000 for the lift station upgrades and replacement projects. We adopted a resolution amending the professional services agreement with Harrison Associates for an amount not to exceed $56,000 plus for the lift station upgrades at military, Rosita, and Del Monte lift station projects. And another one approving the professional service agreement with Infrastructure Engineering Corporation for an amount not to exceed $118,900 for the Canyon Del Rey sewer line replacement project. And we received preliminary analysis for providing sewer collection services to the proposed development of the city of Delray Oaks, and provide direction to the staff. Community Human Services. It was announced that the Salinas High School agreed to join the CHS JPA, and they accepted a $12,000 allocation to be a part of our JPA. There was an excellent report on the Triple P program. Triple P standing for Positive Parenting Program. Triple P helps parents improve their confidence and skills for dealing with everyday interactions and behavioral problems with their children. The group is geared for those having children between the ages of 2 and 12. This class also offers another program, Triple P Pathways, and it is a comprehensive parenting intervention for parents at risk of maltreating their children. All of these classes are free and are held in Salinas and in Monterey. I do have some information on it. If anybody is interested, or maybe you know somebody who you think maybe needs some counseling and so on, I'd be happy to talk to you this evening. Thank you. And then, let's see. On May 17th, we're going to have a full day of strategic planning. And I attended the Delray Oaks Citizens Action Group, and it was reported that the fictitious business name application had been submitted and published in the weekly paper. There was a discussion on the beautification projects, including Eagle Scout volunteers, expenditures, monument signs at Rosita and Canyon Del Rey, and Carlton at Work, island progress with oak tree plantings. Initial plans for the ice cream social was addressed, and several volunteers agreed to help. And the date of that event is May 20, and you will find a flyer inserted in your acorn as it is delivered by the Pony Express. I hope to see you all there. It's fun for both adults and children. Let's see. Mention of the city open house on June 16. And George Jackshaw suggested having a banner made as a reminder to residents. This would be hung during the week prior to the event. And the next meeting for the county will be at 6:15 on May 14th. And we welcome you to join us. Hope to see some of you there. Attended the short-term rental workshop, and there was much courteous discussion, questions, and recommendations. It was well worth attending, and I thought the way the residents handled it was very well done. The bus walking tour that Dana was referring to was extremely interesting. There were a lot of good questions and very good answers by Frederick, who is the engineer for TMC as well as the city of Delray Oaks. There were two tours, one at 9 a.m. and one at 11. And I opted for the 11. But it's my understanding there were only 3 people who showed up for the 9 o'clock tour. And there were total of fewer than 10 people combined on the 2 tours. That includes 3 people, Dina, Planning Commissioner Gary Krieger, and myself. So you can see, even though notice was sent to every single household in Delray Oaks, that's how many showed up. And yet, we hear a lot of complaints about the traffic and everything on 218. So I was terribly disappointed that there weren't more there. And yes, that's it. Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah, thank you, that's a great report. Councilman Buckley.
I attended the Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments. The staff presented the results of the series of public comments they've been hearing related to the multi-year transportation plan and sustainable community strategies. All of that set, they've actually responded to every single public comment that was made. That's posted at the AMBAG site. I encourage anyone that's interested in that multi-year plan to take a look. Delray Oaks is also recognized as a member of AMBAG, and our city staff and city manager have committed to reduction in greenhouse gases through partnership with AMBAG, and so we recognized for a significant reduction through the city programs in an upcoming session. Also attended the Northern Salinas Valley Mosquito Abatement District. We received our monthly report regarding activity in the area, but coincidentally, the board that I sit on, they're also responsible for overseeing our frog pond. It's a major place for mosquito activity, and as they were out there one day, I happened to see them, and we actually had an opportunity to take a walk across the street and over to our park, and they hadn't realized we have this beautiful stream that connects the frog pond all the way up through the peninsula here. And so they hadn't actually been focusing on that for mosquito control. They've been really focused on the frog pond and other areas. So after we took a walk, they identified some other areas where mosquitoes could be breeding. It was actually affecting where kids would be playing in the park, people using the dog park were experiencing it, and they couldn't figure out why. They actually found out that mosquitoes would be further downstream, and the wind that carries through our canyon here would just bring them right into the park. So they'll now be focusing on that area. So it's kind of coincidental when Del Rosa had someone sitting on the board, but we happened to be out and active seeing them one day to actually roll up our sleeves, if you will, and get to see what that agency really does for our community. I also attended the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership Transportation Advisory Committee. They're going to be launching a series of programs in conjunction with the member agencies. One coming out is called GO-E31. The intent is to improve access to mobility in the area. So they're looking for cost-effective solutions, improved health, and they're looking to, they have a target of getting 5 to 10% of commuters to travel by an alternative mode 1 to 2 days a week. And so they're going to be working with agencies and employers in the area to meet that goal. One of the tools they'll be releasing is something called Ride Amigos, an online trip mapping planner that will allow you to choose alternate ways of traveling, including carpool, vanpool, mass transit, walking, biking, and driving. TMC is supporting, leading this effort, and they'll actually be paying for employers in Monterey County, so the riders can travel free using this app. So they're really committed to encouraging alternative forms of transportation in the area. They'll have emergency rides home for people that chose an alternative mode of transportation and thus don't have their car. So they'll have another way to get somewhere quickly if they need to. Their focus right now is on the employees that are commuting, but the future is really going to be on school traffic, including encouraging walking to school, as well as buses and what they call bike trains, which is where students going to school will kind of all go in a safe line of bikes to get to their local school. And they're also going to be encouraging telecommuting in agencies and employers in this area, and I as a member will be doing some speaking engagements with some of the local agencies to share best practices on telecommuting. And that ends my report.
Thank you, great report. A couple things, very busy month. On March 28th, I attended the Transportation Agency for Monterey County Board of Directors meeting. We reviewed the SB1 funding for all the cities in the county based on the money we received from that bill. We received about $47,198. We're using that in about 2 months to start slurry sealing the streets. We haven't done this for almost 20 years. So we'll start slurry sealing some of the intermediate roads. We'll finish by tearing up some of the streets next year and then rebuilding some of those streets. Within 3 years, we should have all the streets in Delaware totally redone based on the SB1 and the MegaRex funding coming in. So stay tuned. It's a real major improvement in our city. On April 4th, I attended the FOR Executive Committee meeting. We recommended locking away all the FOR's California personal retirement funds into a Section 115 trust. Why? Because we want to make sure that money is available to be used to pay off the retirement obligation for FOR when it goes away, if it goes away in 2 years. There's a feeling that after the elections, other people may get reelected to the board, divert that money to put it for other pet projects in their cities, and then all the cities will be required to pull out of their own budgets money to pay off a multi-million-dollar retirement account. So we're locking it away so no funny business can take place at the end of the election cycle. On April 6th, I attended the Monterey County Mayor's Association meeting in the Seaside. The one thing we did do is shoot down a proposal by certain individuals to have every city create a transient parking area and camping area in each one of the cities. So right now the responsibility is in the county and primarily marinas, but it's not going to happen in Del Rio. So we're not having people with all the associated problems coming into our city. And I think Seaside and some of the other cities the same way. Following that meeting, Dino and I went to for a meeting with the State Senator Bill Monty. Focus was on land use jurisdiction compliance with prevailing wage legislation. We don't have that problem in our city. And we actually have some construction projects out there. We'll make sure that we adhere to the law and meet the prevailing wage legislation. On April 10th, Theodore and I went to a fire protection summit sponsored by Colonel Brown, coming out of DLI. Summit was looking for ways to economize fire services in Monterey County. There is a storm brewing with regard to fire services across Monterey County. And right now, it's perceived by a lot of the major cities, it's too expensive. There has to be some economy of the fire services without any loss of support. Fire is absolutely critical. There's got to be some way. We're trying to put the best minds together. Either the fire services get together and do among themselves, or they talk to other cities, not our city, but other cities, will come up with a joint powers authority and basically force the providing fire networks to cut back in ways they may or may not want to cut back. Stay tuned. This is a very hot topic. On April 12th, attended the Monterey Peninsula Regional Water Authority meeting. Mayor Clyde Roberson's city spot is done by population primarily on the peninsula. They have the largest chunk they're paying, and right now legal costs are going through the roof. I backed him on trying to cut back on some of the legal responsibilities of the authority, keeping it to trying to get the ultimate water source through desalinization and some of the other peripheral issues cut back because Monterey can't afford it at all, and they're hurting right now. On April 13th, attended the monthly Board of Directors meeting. We did finalize the Executive Committee's recommendation to lock away $5.7 million into Section 115 trust. So mission accomplished. April 16th, attended the CSU meeting, groundbreaking ceremony for the Goose League Union. If you haven't seen the plans, it's absolutely outstanding, world class. Seaside Mayor Ralph Rubio and I are the only elected officials to attend. It's sad that we need a little more support than that. On April 18th, attended a forward transition meeting. The more the work the transition task force does, the more apparent it becomes that to separate out 70 different Florida Region Authority collective legal agreements into specific responsibilities for the 5 land use jurisdictions, of which Seaside and Delaware Oaks are 2 of them, is like untying the Gordian knot. 4 goes away in 2020. We're trying to figure out what happens after that. Will it be a joint powers authority? Will it be a 4 light? Will it just dissolve and every man can dissolve? Stay tuned. We're meeting about every 2 weeks, and it's getting very, very interesting. April 19th, I attended small claims court proceedings. The city was sued by an individual. Dino represented the city there because it's small claims. We couldn't use our attorney. It would have been unfair advantage using the attorney. Dino did a magnificent job of defending our city against a spurious, in my opinion, legal claim. We'll get the results back in a week. We'll let y'all know. On April 21st, I supported the American Cancer Society Sip, Snack, and Support event at the Pierce Valley Veterans Tasting Room. It was tough duty, but somebody had to do it, so I volunteered to do that. April 23rd, before a legislative committee meeting, we looked at several California legislative actions affecting Florida, and we voted on that. And tomorrow, I'd like to thank Councilmember Buckley. He'll be representing our city at the Transportation Agency Monterey County meeting in Salinas. I'll be judging the California Military Youth of the Year competition at GLI. I volunteered. They said, "Would you do it?" I said, "Sure." Then there were 11 packets, 5 essays each. I spent 2 days going through all this. But it's worth it. We have some outstanding youth across the city, and being able to recognize at least one of them as outstanding young people, either man or woman, it's worth all the effort. So that's the end of my report. And next we have the consent agenda. Any member of the council wishing to pull any item from the consent agenda for questions or discussion? Saying none, after the public, any member of the public wishing to pull any item for questions or discussion? Saying none, back to the council, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, move to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second? Second, okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next, old business, none. New business. First thing we have is to receive public comment on the adoption of a vision statement. Turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the council's strategic planning session on March 13th, the council developed a draft vision statement, which is in the agenda report. The vision statement reads, Delray Oaks will be a unified city with interconnected, welcoming, and thriving neighborhoods, parks, and a vibrant downtown. Council decided at that time to bring it to a public meeting for public comment, and tonight's meeting is as purpose. So, we'll see public comments.
Okay, we're here to receive public comment on the vision statement. Any member of the public like to make any comment on the vision statement? If you would, please, go to the podium. Going once, going twice. Okay, it's such a great public, it's such a great vision statement that we have no public comment, that's fine. We want to get some public, yeah, yes, ma'am. Yeah, please come to the podium. This is all taped, so you'll be on television and, make sure we get your best side.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilmember. My name's Karen Berry. Can I just had a couple word interconnecting cities in that? Am I wrong?
Interconnected.
Yeah, I just found that kind of ironic with what we're doing up the road here. I don't understand that at all. So that might be something that you guys might want to replace. That was the only comment I had.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any other comments by members of the public? Yes, ma'am. Come forward, please.
Question, where is this vibrant downtown going to be?
Yeah.
I'll ask you that in a minute. Okay, a question? Any others? Okay, back to the council. What happens, we have twice a year, I think one of the most valuable exercises we've started recently in the city's ever had. It's called a strategic planning workshop. It's open to the public. We had one member of the public showing, usually the public doesn't show. We spend about almost 6-7 hours where we have the police, legal, city council, city manager, staff. We get together and we look at the SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats for the city. We're looking at what the city is accomplishing. We're looking at, we're dreaming. We're elected officials, representative democracy. What would you like to see would happen in Delray Oaks? Well, one thing I think all of us realized, our vice mayor especially, Kristen Clark, is that this is a great city. We're missing one thing. We're missing a downtown. We don't have a downtown. Just about every other city has a downtown. And so we're looking at, it would be nice to have a downtown, and I think all the city council agreed, yes, it would be nice to have a downtown. The question is where? Well, it could be out to 360 acres. 17 acres too small, it's not, or it could be in a central located area. The vision I heard talk during that meeting was the old industrial park. You've got the central area strategically located between north and south of Delray Oaks. It's being used right now. You've got some self-storage areas there, generating no tax revenue. You've got the AT&T yard generates no tax revenue. It's just a big yard. The most valuable territory we have in Delray Oaks is sitting there not being used. What if, over a period of time, we could transform that area into a downtown Delray Oaks, tied in with Stone Creek, have walking paths and bicycle paths from the south side, lit bike paths where people can walk or ride down there, the north side lit bike paths tied in with the four trails and greenways, where people can go down there and have a downtown. So that was just sort of the general thing we talked about, is that it's sort of spark of interest. We will have, I guarantee you, we will have public meetings, testimony, anything you can think of. We've had people talk about wine bars, a mini Golden Mouth theater down there, things that the people could leave from their part of Delray Oaks, walk down there with their family in a safe area, get to, and mingle, like we have our dog park right now, people are showing up there. So that was sort of a vision, that was a strategic vision we're looking at. This is exemplified by the vision statement. Again, we'll have more about this. This is just sort of a first, throw it out in the air and see who salutes it. So, does that answer the question? Okay, well, I hope you're getting excited about that, because when we get a downtown Delray Oaks, the property values, the quality of life, everything in the city will transform overnight. It'll be a true city. And with Dino working on the 218 corridor and Highway 68, with Fort Tag coming through our 360 acres, tying in with the Frog Pond, with a 17-acre site, and going out and tying in with the rest of the bike trails, we would have a community here that would be second to none. So anyway, enough said about that. It's an information item always, so we have no action right there. So next we have new item, new business, 9A, consider short-term rental public workshop, outcome and direct staff to prepare short-term rental ordinance. City manager did a great job on that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city on Thursday, April 5th, held a short-term rentals public workshop. here in the chambers. Approximately 30 residents attended. It was a terrific 90-minute discussion about short-term rentals. Some of the highlights from the 90-minute discussion were that Delray Oaks is unique. We're not Pacific Grove or Carmel as it relates to short-term rentals, and so our solution should be tailored to our unique circumstances. That currently short-term rentals are legal in Delray Oaks, but they are not regulated or taxed. That the city does not have significant numbers of complaints about short-term rentals, but that any ordinance should envision that council contemplates should provide for enforcement tools necessary to regulate short-term rentals. That there's very little concern about the idea of home sharing, which is the notion of a owner-occupied home renting out a room or even renting out the full home while the owner is out of town, as differentiated from a non-owner-occupied short-term rental. The residents and tenants seem not have much of a problem with home sharing, mainly I think because of the idea that the homeowner would have a lot of vested interest to screen guests and ensure that the home was not misused and the neighbors weren't impacted and the community was protected. They did have concerns about a non-owner occupied short-term rental, and there was a discussion about how the city might capture an ordinance that provides for the regulation of a non-owner occupied short-term rental. And those discussions included the idea of identifying the owner agent and having that owner agent be responsive within a certain amount of time to the city, to the police department, as well as other potential measures that we would contemplate in an ordinance. Generally, residents appear to favor reasonable, simple regulation, such as an annual permit, monthly payment of transient occupancy tax, and use of code enforcement for violations. Residents suggested that home sharing might be treated differently from non-owner occupied, as I said. Interestingly, there wasn't a significant concern about parking. The sense was that parking's an issue whether you're short-term renting or not, and that we would just need to regulate it as we do parking in general. And there was a clear sense that residents did not want commercial events allowed in short-term rentals. Staff suggested the following way forward: the April 5th public workshop, tonight's city council guidance directing staff to develop a draft ordinance, a scheduling of a public workshop to share the draft ordinance with the public, and then a return to council for a first reading of the short-term rental ordinance as soon as May 22nd if we are able to do it, with the second reading June 26th, and then implementation over the summer. The staff recommendation to council is that council direct staff to prepare a draft ordinance on short-term rentals, share with the public, and return for a first reading.
Any questions by members of the council? Any members like members of the public? Any questions? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium. Please state your name and the city you're from for your address.
My name is Adam Pierce. I'm a resident of Seaside by about 100 feet. And I'm wondering why this is something that needs to be regulated at all.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions about members of the public? No questions? I'll turn it back first. Get it back to the city manager.
It's a great question. Couple answers. Right now, they're businesses operating unlicensed. If you're operating your home as a business and renting it out, it's an unlicensed business. So there needs to be some regulatory framework to allow the legal, legitimate operation of a home business. Secondly, we need to have some enforcement tools. One of the two complaints, very few complaints, but one of the two complaints I received over the last year was from a young mother living across the street from a home that was being used as a short-term rental. And her concern was that she just didn't know who was coming and going. So it was a sense of just unease over the use of the adjacent home for short-term rental. I can't do anything with that. I have no enforcement tools to deal with that. If I had a short-term rental ordinance, the city had a short-term rental ordinance that had a requirement for registered business with an owner that can be contacted and a phone number, I could have easily reached out to that owner agent and addressed that concern with that person, taken that answer back to the resident, and hopefully assuaged their concerns. Lastly, it's a revenue issue. There's a 10% transient occupancy tax on the books in Delray Oaks. These businesses are operating outside of that taxation framework, and so it's lost revenue to the city, which desperately needs it.
I entertain a motion that the city council direct staff to prepare a draft of short-term rental ordinance based on the public's input that was received at the short-term rental ordinance workshop. We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much, council, once again. Okay, next we have public comment period. Any member may address any of the public may address the council on any item that is not on the agenda. You've got 3 minutes. If you wish to address the council, please state your name and where you're roughly from. You've got 3 minutes. We have a lot of people here that may want to talk, so it's 3 minutes. Let's cut it off, please. If you want to speak, just line up, please, so we're not spending 4 hours waiting for people to stand or walk across. Okay? Please line up, please, and then after you, sir, please.
Good evening, council members. My name is Tom Newton. I was raised on Portola at 965 and 959. My family currently lives at 111 Carlton. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. Lovingly grew up there and actually was good tennis friends with Brett. So I don't know if you remember me at all. But I hope to keep this brief, but I also hope that I'm successful in conveying my passion for the matter about which I'm going to speak. The closing off of access to Highland and Plumas Avenue from Carlton, I think, is going to be a major, major mistake for several reasons. It's been advertised that this move will vastly reduce the amount of unprotected left turns onto Canyon Del Rey, and I think you're absolutely right if you're in the business of protecting Seaside citizens. But for citizens of Del Rey Oaks and traffic to Upper Seaside, now you have to go unprotected left onto the busy Canyon Del Rey. You're obviously aware of the danger because you're trying to reduce it. But now the plan is to vastly increase the exposure to the danger for your own citizens. The flow from Seaside appears to be more of an inconvenience for a few, not really a serious threat to safety. There are virtually 0 traffic accidents as reported by Del Rey Oaks, on Carlton, and the already excessively narrowed lanes provide more than ample room for bikes and pedestrians to walk and ride. According to the Del Rey Oaks newsletter, the majority of speeding infractions on Carlton are from our own citizens, which might get worse now that they're out at the Seaside, is so much longer. Finally, emergency response time is going to be greatly affected by the move, and this is my biggest concern. I'm unsure if I was witnessing practice or a genuine response, but leaving Carlton just last week, I witnessed firing and exiting and waiting, moving cones. I'm sure cones would be permanent, but they'd be waiting for barriers to move in order to respond accordingly, and that's not a good look. As emergencies happen, response time is paramount. Precious seconds matter, and they seem to be lost in this decision. I may be in the minority. I've heard that there are many Del Rey Oaks citizens that are very happy about the proposal, but I am passionate in my belief that this is a major mistake for our city. It's a bad look in the city in which I grew up, and I implore you to look to other means to achieve this goal. My final point is, I just heard there's going to be a bustling downtown, which I am very, very excited about. But instead of closing Carlton, I suggest to keep businesses thriving and attractive, we might want to open up. So, thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not appropriate to clap during getting testimony here. It's not a, please, no clap. Yes,
I would like to clap.
I hope this is not available, we're still entertaining input, but, so I want to make my official tonight, because I put it on next door, but, as for Carlton, I want to propose a compromise solution. A compromise is something where not everyone gets everything they want, but everyone gets something that they want. So my thought is to add speed humps to Carlton. This would discourage the through traffic the way it does at CSUB. Nobody wants to drive on that road. To then discourage people from whipping around on Salcedo or running down Portola, if you closed off Quindale, that would solve that problem. But Carlton would still be open. People could do a circuitous route and still get through over the bumps and go through. So it's been said that speed humps increase fuel consumption as people slow down and speed up. But that's not just a simple solution, it's a simple equation, because driving 2 miles one way, just to get to the other side, also causes gas consumption to be increased. expands into the former Fort Ord, traffic will inevitably become more congested on Canyon Del Rey. But we need more routes to leave the city, not less. And my other point is I feel it's important that when the next vote on the closure comes about, that Councilman Buckley should recuse himself. Because I'm not sure what parsing of legalese allowed him to vote on the last proposal. But his presence has every appearance of conflict of interest as he lives directly on Carlton and was one of the founding members of the traffic calming movement. So if Mayor Elam is compelled to recuse himself, it only seems obvious that Councilman Buckley would recuse himself as well. At this point, I'd like to see the council consider what is best for the entire community and not for a handful of citizens.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. That's a clap.
If we clap again, I'll call 10-minute recess. We all go out in the parking lot and wait for 10 minutes and come back again. We do this all night long. It's not appropriate to clap in the council chambers. It's a dignified area. I'm the chair. Under Robert's rules, I have to maintain order. Clapping is not order. So if you want a 10-minute recess out there, we'll have a 10-minute recess out there. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Ruth Ann Currents, and I live in Delray Oaks. And I'm going to make one comment on the first gentleman that spoke. And I am probably one of the enemies in Delray Oaks because I like the road closed so far. He mentioned something about opening up Tweed. He must not have been here 40 years ago when Tweed was opened. It was a zoo then. Now, we've had 10-fold, 20-fold traffic since then. So Tweed has got to be out of the picture. I mean, if you were here 45 years ago, since as long as we've been here, you would know what the closure of Tweed did. Now, I brought this to the attention before. Maybe I didn't bring it to the council. And I'm not taking it out on any council member. Please understand that. But I do have one suggestion, and I'm not the only one in these meetings that cannot hear the speakers. And council member, get her name right here, Lintel, either you have to speak up, you either have to get the microphone closer to you, or turn it up. There are people in this room that cannot hear everything you're saying. So we miss a lot of important information. And the other is Councilwoman Clark. You both have a lot to say. It's very interesting. But I spoke to other people and we cannot hear everything you're saying. So we're missing out on all the information that you're telling us about. So that's just one of my thoughts. And I brought it up before, and I hope that somehow or another can get addressed, because I'm missing out on everything that you've done in life. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. In the future, if you would, if it happens again for some reason, raise your hand, and I'll see your hand going, and I'll try and help you on that. Yes, sir.
My name's Jeff Hobbs, and I'm also a Seaside resident, live right up the street. I didn't know anything about this opening up a big city and everything like that, but I just, when they closed Carlton, I don't understand why they did it. You know, and you were saying that 218 is busy, and you want to open up the city. I mean, what's the traffic going to be there? Are we going to open this for like 4 lanes, or? It just amazes me to even be here and to listen to this. It just blows my mind. I mean, isn't traffic like by the billions everywhere, not just in Delray Oaks? I mean, it's everywhere on the peninsula. I mean, now, you know, Kimball's crazy, you know, and it's because they closed Carlton. That's one of the reasons. You know, I just hope that they don't close it. In my mind, it was a stupid decision, you know. And, I mean, 45 years ago, how many more cars are on the road nowadays? I mean, thousands and thousands. I mean, it's everywhere on the Monterey Peninsula, everywhere. It doesn't, you know, it's not just in Delray Oaks. It just, you know, and, you know, like somebody said, it's like, just look past your noses, you know, and that's what I would say. Just look past your noses and see it's everywhere. It's not just in your town. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Hi, Sandy Castano on Carlton Drive. Just wanted to say a couple of statements in regards to obviously the closing of Carlton. Sounds to me like it's going to happen, even though we're sitting here thinking that we might have some input. I had emergency crew one time in 20 years come up to my house because I'm a 52-year diabetic. And I am thinking, if it took 10 more seconds for somebody to get help to me because of this ridiculous closure, and I hear that, the buses and the police department and those types of officials will have these little buttons that will open it up. How do you know when there's an emergency going to happen? Especially with the older folk with heart attacks. So that's one point. The next point, it is a big convenience for me because I do a lot of Plumas and up to our business in Seaside, but inconvenience we can all put up with. But I have been going down Carlton and up and around to get to General Jim Moore. And lo and behold, there's the water classic thing going on. I was stuck in traffic. Nowhere, going nowhere, for 10 solid minutes. And if you guys know, during the summer, we have nothing but things going on. And if General Jim Moore is the only way you guys are letting us, sure, we can go through Seaside, up and around, but it's crazy to think how much, I know that I'm not going to be disrespectful and say who's thinking of this going on, but in my simple mind, it doesn't take much to figure out that's craziness. And I was around, whoever Mrs. Kurtz was, when Tweed closed. I was a driving person. It doesn't matter, it didn't matter to me then because I was just this young buck. Now I'm an adult trying to figure out the sense that this is going to make. And I know there's pluses and minuses for everybody. But if you guys are thinking about building Delray Oaks to be bigger and friendlier to the other cities, I'm trying to figure out how it's even going to come out. There are no bikes up and down Carlton, not a one. So the bike trail, as we call it, was craziness. We should have spent the money to put double sidewalks so people can walk up and down the street, slowing down traffic to make it narrower, or speeders rather, from what I heard, doesn't slow speeders down. They're going to speed on a wide road and they're going to speed on a narrow road. It absolutely looks ridiculous on Mondays when garbage cans are out in the middle of the street. People's cars, thank the Lord above, I don't live on that Carlton, are parked almost in the middle of the street. We got older folk walking down the middle of the street, and it's very nice that Delray Oaks can be a Mayberry RFD road or city, but we have to grow. And if you're closing up all the city access, it's like we're on an island. And I obviously don't like that idea, but hopefully we can all vote and maybe you guys can take some information from the people that don't like this.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, my name is Gina Dabby, and I live at 1101 Buena Street in the midsection between Noche Buena and Mescal. That is the hardest hit due to the closure of Carlton. I have heard all of the interesting reasons as to why this idea is trying to prevail. Bottom line is, you are segregating communities to have a little private gated community on public streets. It is my understanding that gated communities are planned from the beginning of their construction, not after years of living someplace and then have some disgruntled citizens who are sick of a little traffic and then decide they are going to campaign for closure with interesting reasons to get passed. I live on the corner of Kimball and Buena, and I have some traffic too. I knew that when I bought my house that this would happen, living on the public street. Doesn't mean I'm going to go to City Hall and close roads. We all know what you're up to, and we will not stand for this unfairness and imposing safety hazards from the closure. This is how our lives are affected. During the morning commute, Kimball has tripled the traffic in 2 areas, in Noche Buena for the 2 school buses in the morning, then as that clears up, at Fremont, a bottleneck occurs when the traffic coming down from Fremont clogs the short space from Walgreens to Canyon Del Rey because of the traffic light. I can sit there for 4 green lights and go nowhere because of this. In addition, General Jim Moore has the same problem as of now. My husband travels to Salinas, and I travel to MPC. We have both been affected because we used to use Carlton every day, responsibly. There has never been a lot of traffic on Carlton. It goes very smoothly during commuting hours. So what's the big deal? There are Delray Oaks residents who are not in agreement with this closure because they don't believe that it is good for the community and care about the effects of others, and say that it is primarily the residents of Carlton that started all of this. The pros: a private community for few, less traffic during commuting hours. Cons: segregating communities and offend feelings along with being closed off from a neighboring community, having to backtrack and go around barriers to get into Delray Oaks and Canyon Del Rey. We're members of the Moose. I have to backtrack to go that way. Increased traffic to seaside streets, more gas use, increased hazards due to traffic, first responder delays, especially to the midsection of Seaside, confusion for elderly drivers who are used to their Carlton route, a block long bike path that was a waste of money and goes nowhere, and now the closure has blocked bikes as well. Anxiety that this has caused.
3 minutes left. Conclude, please. Everybody has 3 minutes.
Okay. Jocelyn, can I finish?
Another sentence or so, please.
Pardon?
Everybody has 3 minutes. We can't have one person more time than anybody else.
Okay, so
Yeah, please, if you would.
cut it right now?
If you would, please. Thank you, ma'am. You made some good points. Yes, sir.
As I mentioned, I live just barely on the Seaside, and in particular, I'm just barely on the other side of the closure. And there's something that I'd like to share with you that you may not have considered, which is that I'm a renter, and I'm thinking of moving away because of this closure. Because, when my lease comes up, I might move away, because it's much, much less accessible immediately on the other side of the barrier. I have to go a mile out of my way to get to a major road instead of coming down Carlton. Which, okay, that's tough for me. Maybe when I do the closure anyway, but who's going to take my place? Probably somebody who doesn't mind as much that there's a long, distance to a major road. Maybe somebody who doesn't own a car. It's going to be less desirable to live just on the other side of that closure in that little neighborhood there. And less desirable means lower rents. Lower rents means lower income. And unfortunately, as you know, there's a lot of social problems that come with that. And you're going to have neighbors that you don't necessarily want to be neighbors with when you make it much, much less pleasant to live right next to you. So that's just something maybe you haven't considered, and I hope you consider.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please. Ladies first.
Again, my name is Karen Berry, Mr. Speak. I grew up on Carlton Drive, and I was around 45 years ago when Tweed was closed. And I understand all that, but I'm really concerned. I have a parent that I take care of that lives on Carlton Drive. And my dad, who is not with us any longer, had many emergencies over the years with the fire department coming. It's a very scary thing to know that lives can be lost because there might be 60 seconds here or a minute or 2 minutes here. It's not a funny thing to just so blatantly just close the street and not think about people's lives. You guys are messing with people's lives. Life and death here. We have a lot of elderly people in this town, and I think that is my biggest consideration. The other thing I want to say is, I don't know how you can do a traffic survey when you cut off the traffic. That was just a little odd to me. So my suggestion is, open the road up. Why doesn't everybody take a field trip and drive down Plumas? You can't really speed down Plumas. They've had those really cool speed bumps there for years.
Yep.
They have signs up that say, high traffic complaint area, speed is enforced. and why don't you put something like that? You cannot speed down Plymouth. They have no problems down that road. They even have a school there. There's a lot of parents dropping off kids every morning. There are no problems on that street. I think you need to mimic that, and I think you need to stop this. And I really think there's an underlying factor with some kind of money or something coming into the city. This is why I don't think you're going to listen to these public comments. I think the deal is already done, unfortunately. But I do want you to listen to the safety of the people in this little town that you want to expand. And how can you expand a town when you're cutting towns off? There's too much irony here. You guys are adults. No, they're all adults here. Let's do the right thing. Let's welcome people to this community, not push people away. Thank you for my comment.
Thank you, Don. Well, when the speaker is speaking, please note talking in the audience is disrespectful and it's rude. One person speaks at a time. Sure.
So, my name is Elon. I live on Tugas Avenue in Seaside here, and thank you for your time. I just want to, I've been looking through your PDF files, and since around September of 2015, this issue came upon your agenda, and basically it was a complaint speeding on Carlton, period, for like 2 years straight, every month, right? So finally, you put in these blinking lights and all that, nice, and it actually got the speeders it was a huge improvement, as your Frederick showed in January, right? You showed the numbers, and it was it was tremendous. So I'm asking you, because of that, due to that, why then are we closing Carlton if there was a huge improvement and the numbers show it? That was one question I had. I'm going to have to answer that right now. But I'd also like to ask you, actually I wish Frederick was here, but how about, have you met the warrants for closing that street in regards to the fire, ambulance, access, and so on? And the warrants for the number of houses per mile that exist, and the warrants for the number of vehicles per day. And there are clearly stated warrants in your 1,200 cars a day does not meet that from what I can tell, but I'm not a traffic engineer, but these are just questions that I have. And then another thing that I've noticed here during this time is the redirection of this traffic has put the children at Delray Good School in great harm. I see it every time I try to go some better way, and I see people getting upset, children popping out of nowhere, crossing the street, and all these cars have been directed that way, to be honest, is what it looks like. So they're at harm, as well as the people on Mescal. There's a school there, and then there's a school on Hilby, charter school. So all those children, their families, their guardians are in harm's way because of this. Okay? And then, how about, like they used to do years ago, have the police come out to the radar and give people tickets? You guys want income for the city? There you go. Right. That's one proposal as well. And then lastly, I'm sorry, I don't want to take too much time, but the California Vehicle Code, if you will look at it, 21102. Okay, it states, basically, I will read the whole thing. Local authority to close streets may adopt rules and regulations by ordinance or resolution closing to vehicular traffic that portion of any street or highway due to any school grounds when in the opinion of the legislative and judiciary, when they determine that it's necessary for the protection of the persons attending that school. That's the only thing that book says about closing a road. So I don't know if you can look into that, and maybe that may help the situation. But I just hope common sense and honesty, integrity, like your charter says, and the rule of law prevail. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Your frequent wasn't really kind of speak, but after listening tonight, just wanted to make a few observations. One, as someone who's part of the traffic committee the last 2.5 years, one of the ones that recently came in here and started complaining about it, I just, for the record, we never once asked the road to be closed. We wanted enforcement, speed bumps, other things. Close the road. We said, roll through the light, so it's not the speed effort. The speeding problem, if you live in Delray Oaks, you walk it like we do, it's very genuine. I'm dodging cars to my dogs and my kids all the time. It's a very genuine problem. It needs to be addressed. But I'm going to advise the council to take note of this tonight. We're worried about our city, how we look, how we're going to interact with everyone around. Sitting here tonight, I think these people make a lot of good points, and I think you need to reflect on that. Beth has put forth, I think it's a mixed one, I thought it was a very reasonable compromise and deserves to be talked about. Let's talk about it. I mean, I think that, I'll just be careful. We want our city to be, if it's the golden age, we want that. We're not gonna get it if we're losing, friends and neighbors that we currently are. So we might need to rethink this, and, there are other ways to do this. There is a real traffic problem. Some people are saying there's not a traffic problem. There's 1,200 cars a day going down Carlton. And a lot of them are speeding, and a lot of them coming down Portola. I live on Quindle, and it's a problem. We do need to address it. But maybe the closure is not the way we need to do it. Maybe if we just step back and rethink this before we do anything permanent. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Next speaker.
George Structure, a little along the Rosita up top of the hill. It doesn't affect me too much. I have to go that way. I've just learned to go the other way. But to add a little bit of balance, there's a fellow on Columbus and a fellow on Warren that told me that they love it, and they're seaside residents. How much they have to commute, I don't know, but they do like it.
Thanks, sir. Next speaker.
Charles Northern, resident of Seaside. We've talked about the blocking of the road causing a problem and inconvenience for people that actually have to get to 218 to block the only direct access from the Seaside to a state road. You did a very beautiful job on the signs that explain what's going on, but I would like to point out something. One of the first things you state is this designed to improve pedestrian and bicycle traffic. You placed a potted plant directly in the center of the bicycle lane and put the barrier so close together you cannot drag a bicycle between them. I think that says a great deal about your true intent of this closure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public testimony with regard to this issue? Please, if you get in line there, sir, just wait over there so we can save a little time. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I live at the top of Kimball Avenue, on the corner of Yolanda and Kimball, been there 42 years. Traffic was just ordinary. Since this closure, I would say it's more than doubled. I have cats out, I keep my cats in, because one's already been killed there. Another thing, I was leaving my sister's house, she was on Douglas Court, going back up the hill to my house, and the fire truck was coming down and turned to come down to Carlton. And I followed it. I was very curious to see, what are they going to do? They went to the barrier there, two guys got out, they moved the trees, they moved the barrier, they went through. The guys then got out again, put it all back together, went to the next one and did the same thing. Okay, if someone had a heart attack, if somebody's run over, if a house is on fire, that was a good 4 minutes. I was sitting right in my car, watching them. It's completely unacceptable, completely unacceptable. And you're talking about closing Tweed. Tweed didn't go all the way through. This one goes all the way through from Kimball Avenue right down here to Canyon Del Rey, so that we can, anybody, the fire truck can get through, we can get through without having to go up Mescal, over to General Gym, down, and then take a right to come down here to go to the Safeway. My son lives on, I think it's Blanco, one of the Del Reyes. For me to go to his house now, rather than going down Portola, I have to go all the way around, either that way or this way to get to his house. Completely unnecessary. Whoever designed this really needs to rethink this problem. It's a huge problem for all of us. Not only Seaside and Del Reyes, but a lot of people that use that. And, Mescal's a 2-lane road that has so many divots and holes in it. You beat your car up going, and then if another car is coming, you have to get off on the side, and there's a pole there for a light that's right in the road, so you have to go over here, wait for the car to come, then go around the pole to go to the stop sign to get out to General Gym. So we need to rethink this, folks. And people that have the money and want to move to another city or something.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Scott, and I'm from live on the 900 block of Villa Verde. And I think it's my idea is actually signs that say, do not enter between like 7 and 9, whatever the rush hour would be in the morning AM, and then from 4 to 6 PM. And then it has a picture of a camera saying, photo enforced, taking pictures, not that people do it, but, and then it says at the very bottom, it says a fine of $100 if you get caught doing that, like on a carpool lane. People wouldn't go in that, they just know that there could be some police officer in front or behind or cameras or something, so people wouldn't do that. So I would think you would divert a lot of traffic from which if these people, honest people actually saw these signs, they would not go through at that time, they would go around in another way. And if they were caught, they would be, they'd be like a couple times you just let them go through, and then the third time they'd be like $25, and if they do it again, $50, and if they do it like all the time, then start charging $100 a fine on those particular people that are doing that, and then they eventually won't go through. I think the big problem is that the rush hour traffic in the morning and the nighttime, I think, is a problem because, well, actually, there's a typo in your sign that says connecting communities. It should be disconnecting communities. And also, what you could do is do everybody in the upper Mescal area, upper Kimball, everybody in Del Rios, get a plaque that like Pebble Beach has, and then just put it on the car. Every home, every owner, however cars they get that many plaques. Unless you're clapping cars. But I think that would be, those are just some solutions. We keep it open, and we keep it open for the community. Just the tight-knit community we got here. We can't be, if we start, if that actually goes into effect, then I think we're going to have war between the two communities. And we're supposed to bring the people together. I just don't think that's wise. I think if you were to take the barriers off and let them off for about a month, people would not use that because they know now that they can't go through that road because they're a community. So why would they, like up at Presidio, they used to have that open and now they don't. And no one goes up there to cut it short. No, I mean, you know that it's closed, so you wouldn't do it. So I just think that there's other ways of looking at it, and I think it's just a rush. A lot of people, I have a friend that, that commutes over to Meadowbrook, and he lives on this side. He has to go all the way around. He's going to take an extra 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
My name is Eric Cat, and I live on Highland Street. I'm a former resident of Wilson Cedars. I've lived here all my life. I've not really good at public speaking, but I think you can hear from all of us that this road closure has caused quite a bit of inconvenience to a lot of people. I'm kind of torn sometimes because I see a lot of the speeding that happens, but I also don't see any enforcement on it. I've almost often thought that it'd be nice if we had some speed bumps going down Highland and to Carlton, just for the main reason of slowing people down. I also see that I think that with the closure that's happened, that most people won't even think about coming back through here for a while until it becomes more apparent that it's open again. I just want you guys to rethink what you've done. Okay? Thanks.
Thanks, sir. Yep. Any other members of the public wishing to address this issue?
I see a lot of extra people here on time. I did it.
Seeing none, the public comment period is closed. I'll bring it back for city manager to have a few comments to make.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you all for coming and speaking. Just so you don't go away with absolutely no feedback on the questions you've raised and the feedback you've provided, let me just make a few comments. There's been no final decision made on the closure of Carlton. The decision the council made was to direct staff to conduct feasibility and environmental assessment for the potential closure of Carlton, which is what we're doing. And that consisted of traffic counts at 10 intersections. And if you've looked online, if you haven't, we can refer you to the right place tonight so you can see the intersections. to conduct traffic counts at 10 intersections, 7 of which are in Seaside, prior to the closure, so during normal traffic, and then to conduct a temporary closure and conduct traffic counts at the same 10 intersections, which we have just recently done. The traffic engineer will analyze that data to see what happened to the vehicular traffic that's not coming down Carlton, see which of those 7 intersections various vehicles went to at various times of the day. They'll come back and make a presentation on the 22nd of May, which is the next council meeting in Delray Oaks, and I strongly encourage you to attend. At that council meeting, we will be presenting the information to council as resulting from the traffic counts pre and during closure, and then making a recommendation to council either to proceed with the closure or to not. And so that decision has not been made. And we're going to, as we have been saying throughout, we're going to follow the data and go where it leads us. The comments made about emergency vehicles are very, very significant, they're very important. And as a couple of residents pointed out, emergency vehicles can transit that temporary closure. We couldn't, because of cost, put a gate in place during the temporary closure that would allow rapid passage of emergency vehicles with some kind of a radar device or so on. And so there was definitely a minor but acceptable in the minds of both fire and police delay caused by those counts, no doubt about it. That impact would be mitigated should the closure go forward. And lastly, I appreciate very much the alternatives provided by the various residents, and we'll actually put those into staff consideration and any recommendations to council.
As our city manager said, the decision's not been made yet. The data will be brought back before the council after staff analyzes next month, hopefully by next month. And again, you'll have an opportunity. I do appreciate everybody showing up here. We have a real range of ideas. There's no motion expressed, but everybody maintained decorum. I appreciate that very much, being responsible, maintaining decorum. So again, this was the public comment period. We've got some good information. We'll be brought back next month. Once we've had the data, it's analyzed, and stay tuned. Be interested to see what happens with all the reform stuff. That's the end of the public comment period. Next, we have a correspondence letter of appreciation from the Church of the Oaks. And I'd like to read it. It says, "Dear Mayor Leland, Chief Floyd, City Council staff, and the Delray Police Department. A few weeks ago, one of our members had a medical emergency. Commander Berkman came to the church building right away to finish her first aid while we were waiting for the ambulance. After our break-in Monday, Officer Baum came and did a very thorough investigation, taking the incident seriously. Officer Lawson came yesterday to tell us of the arrest and detention of the suspects, and I would know before I saw the news. Corporal Regan and others have been faithful in patrolling this neighborhood. Well done. Thank you. May God continue to bless you and protect you. Signed, Reverend Helen, our pastor." It's very, very nice to know we get things like that. We'll be going into closed session for a very short period of time, as permitted by Government Code Section 54956. At second, council may adjourn to a closed session, consider specific matters dealing with certain litigation, personnel, or labor/real property negotiations. The topic, public comment, the topic we'll be talking about in the closed session will be conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, William Litt et al. Versus City of Delray Oaks, Monterey County Superior Court Case 18 Sierra Charlie 00221, Government Code Section 54956.9, subparagraph D1. Any member of the public wishing to address the council on this specific litigation before we go into closed session? Anybody wishing to say anything on it? If not, then we will be adjourning in open session, reconvening in closed session once the council chambers are cleared. I would invite everybody to our next meeting. It proves to be a very interesting one, May 22nd at 6 p.m. Thank you very much for your attention. We are now reporting out with our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. The council did discuss the ongoing litigation in closed session, and that data was provided, but no reportable action was taken.
Thank you very much.